Good evening, I'm Kelly Wright. Welcome to tonight's program. As we spend the next hour together, I certainly appreciate you. And as I've always stated in the opening of these shows, I hope that wherever you are, that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family. My opening observations tonight follows the life of two giants. Two giant figures of the American Civil Rights Movement died Friday, certainly during these troubling times that we find ourselves in a critical pandemic, and protests against racial injustice are seen around the world. The deaths of Congressman John Lewis and the Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian is a tremendous loss. They invested their lives and their blood in the tireless struggle for racial equality and freedom. They died on the same day, just a day before the birthday of Nelson Mandela. They are gone, but certainly not forgotten. Their legacy continues, and we see it in the streets of people peacefully protesting against racial injustice. We are one people with one family, John Lewis said. We all live in the same house, and through books, through information, we must find a way to say to people that we must lay down the burden of hate, for hate is too heavy a burden to bear. And those are my opening observations. And joining me now, I'm actually expressing my condolences to a good friend who was a good friend to both of these giants, and that is the Reverend Dr. Benjamin Chavis, who is head of the National Newspapers Publishers Association, as well as the Black Press USA. Again, Doc, my condolences to you for the loss of two of your good friends.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I'm always very pleased to be on the Kelly Wright Show and the Black News Channel. And certainly the whole of the Civil Rights Movement, and I would say the whole of all Americans, but the whole world stands in mourning, but we also stand in a salute. The Honorable C.T. Vivian, Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian, and the Honorable John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, were civil rights icons. They were freedom fighters. They were both strong family men. Loved their children, loved the movement. And I was a beneficiary of their care and of their love and of their mentorship. I grew up in the civil rights movement, working with John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. And one of the things you need to know about the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and about the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, they always open the door for other young students as I were. I started out in the movement, I was in high school. They were in college. And the thing about C.T. Vivian and John Lewis was they practiced what they preached. They didn't just rhetoricize fighting for freedom, justice, and equality. They lived it. They preached about it. They spoke about it. They organized about it. They agitated about it. They mobilized about it. And they brought so many people like myself and others into the movement. That's why we had and still have a civil rights movement today, is because of their legacy, because of their sacrifice, because of their leadership.
When you think about both individuals, what's your personal recollection right now that stands out the most with your relationship with John Lewis? This was a man that, of course, marched on Bloody Sunday. He was the first to take a blow, and he was able to get back and keep fighting, although he did state that he thought he was going to lose his life that day, and yet he was willing to lose it.
Yes, well, John Lewis in 1963 was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington when Dr. King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. Then it was 2 years later in 1965 where he led the Selma to Montgomery March with Jose Williams and many others in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in SNCC, and he was brutally beaten on the Edmunds Pettus Bridge. And certainly the one word for John Lewis, courage, courage, sustainable courage. Even though he went through a lot of trials and tribulations, this brother's, his courage was never broken. His spirit was never broken. And if you notice all of what he said in his later years, after he became a member of Congress from Atlanta, Georgia, he always talked about love, the beloved community that Dr. King espoused. John Lewis was a living example of a brother, of a leader, of an icon who not only believed in the beloved community, but he practices it.
We'll be back with more of the show after this. You know, he also talked about the voting rights. That was one of his last speeches there in Congress.
He helped get the voting rights because of what happened on that bridge in Selma, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The voting rights bill was later passed. And the thing is that even after the Supreme Court tried to gut some of the Supreme Court findings on voting rights, where they took away some of the statutes of the Voting Rights Act, John Lewis helped lead the Congress to renew the Voting Rights Act. And that's still pending to this day before the Congress of the United States, Kelly. So I'm hoping that when the Congress finally reauthorizes the Voting Rights Bill of the United States of America, it'll be named the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
And before I let you go, one of the things that Congressman John Lewis also talked about was good trouble. And that was going out and making good trouble, stir the waters, if you will, where you see injustice. And even when he was close to dying with pancreatic cancer, I will never forget that iconic picture now where he stood right there at Black Lives Matter with the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser, in tribute and in honor of George Floyd, in tribute and in honor of the young people, white and black and brown and yellow and red, standing up to say enough is enough, no more racial injustice. Let's get rid of this evil in our society. And there he was standing, frail, but still standing tall against injustice.
Even in his final days, the Honorable John Lewis stood for freedom, justice, and equality. And that picture now that was going to become an iconic picture of him standing with Mayor Bowser, the mayor of DC, on Black Lives Matter Plaza, there on 16th Street leading to the White House. It is so emblematic of the full life of John Lewis. May God give him eternal rest and peace. And now, Kelly, it's our responsibility, those of us who still have the breath of life, we must carry on. We must pick that baton up, and we must keep marching. We must keep struggling. We must keep demanding freedom, justice, and equality in memory and in salute to the legacy of John Lewis, to the legacy of C.T. Vivian, and I will also say to the legacy of Joseph Lowery, who also passed during the pandemic. Those three kings, Lowery, Vivian, Lewis.
Dr. Benjamin Chavis, thank you for your recollection, your memories, and thank you for carrying on that torch, by the way. And I think the one word that rings so true at the end of everything that you stated is that all three of these gentlemen would want us to continue on with the good fight, stir up good trouble, to have a better end for all of us, and to have courage.
Absolutely. God bless, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. We're back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. So we've been following so many things that have been going on in our society. And of course, over the weekend, we lost two stalwarts of the civil rights movement, Reverend C.T. Vivian, as well as Representative John Lewis. We just spoke to Dr. Benjamin Chavis about his recollection of that. And now joining me is the Reverend Anthony Evans. He is head of the National Black Church Initiative. And you know, Reverend Evans, those two gentlemen, Vivian and Lewis, are giants that we've lost. How does the Black church see continuing the fight of what they were trying to do for so many years? And as John Lewis said, create good trouble to bring people to a place of understanding that we must have racial unity. And then of course, Congressman Lewis was also trying to do it from a legislative perspective. And we're in an electoral year. This is election politics we're getting into. So where do we find that racial harmony? And is it even possible in this election year?
Well, let me first of all say that C.T. Vivian's a good friend of mine and had wonderful experience with him. And I got to meet all of Martin King's lieutenants. And I'm not old enough to have marched, but I got to meet those lieutenants. C.T. Vivian's was a class act to follow. I'm glad that President Obama gave him the Freedom of Medal Award. John Lewis is exceptional, a continuous fighter. We love him. He's a bright spot. And both of them fertile the soil in which we stand. So our soil is ready to be yield now, but it won't be easy. And it cannot be easy in this atmosphere. One of the worst times to try to make any progress is when in this country, when there's economic hardship, and there is much economic hardship given the economic effect of the coronavirus, and also political uncertainty and racial fear. So those are the three factors that we find ourselves in. And it's not going to be easy making things happen, of bringing the races together as people expect us to do, and certainly in the church.
You mentioned that you knew C.T. Vivian personally, he was a friend of yours. And he talked about that blacks don't have a problem, whites have a problem, racism, and that creates a problem for blacks. He said it so well, and do we still find ourselves living in this kind of tumultuous time where we haven't come together and we have people not really willing to sit at the table and really be fair and balanced in their approach of healing the racial divide?
Exactly. C.T. Vivian says something else as well that was very eloquent in terms of accommodation of whites' insecurities. And Black folks have no business accommodating white people insecurity. Either you're racist or you're not. We're not going to accommodate. Now, we have done that up until now, but the conversation itself on race has dramatically changed. And it's been changing for a very long time, because white folks understand that if the playing field is even, Black folks are prepared to compete and win. And usually if the playing field is even, we will win, because we come to the table more prepared than our white counterparts. That being said, we are still willing to work with sincere white people who want to make progress. But let me say this right here. Many whites right now are traumatized and fearful of tomorrow. And because they do not want to share anything that they have with African Americans. They do not want to share it. They will not give it. And that's why the corporation is giving a tip to us. You take a corporation like Wells Fargo, who's worth $2 or $3 trillion and who stole $300 billion out of the Black community, and then came back and give us a tip of $50 million. And all of a sudden we believe that they should be holy. Not true. So we need white folks to come to the table and respect the fact that we are human beings just like them, no higher, no lower, even playing field, and then we will make some progress. But we cannot make any progress right now because of the uncertainties of the time. Now, and what is a major factor of that uncertainties is our current president, President Trump, who has created a new style of political leadership by confusion. So he wants to keep the water messy and murky so that red is not red, but blue is red and red is blue, so that people really would not see him like he should be seen. And so suffice it to say, he's a racist. He doesn't care about people. He cares about himself. And he's intent on dividing this country. And the best way to divide this country is only two ways: economic and race. And you see how he is doing that. On the stimulus, he has given all of us a stimulus package. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Appreciate that. Help with the bills. But he's also continued to muddy the waters on the issue of the Confederate flag. It is a racist flag. They lost the war. So you bury that flag. It's simple. On the issue of jobs and economic development, the first thing Mr. Trump did was to give us the biggest tax cut to corporations. The average corporation made a $30 billion tax cut. So he again, it was clever on his part to make sure that his reelection campaign chest will always be filled. But at the end of the day, he perpetuates the economic divide in our society.
I'm talking to Reverend Anthony Evans, who is the head of the National Black Church Initiative. And they have a lot at stake because they're concerned about the future of the Black community. When we return, we'll talk about more and also get into the fact that they have programs that they're trying to help people deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the economic downturn from the disruption of COVID-19. We'll be back with more Reverend Anthony Evans right after this. So where does the National Black Church Initiative stand with its COVID-19 response, and how are you helping more people of color get the help that they need?
Well, let me say this right here. CDC, the National Institute of Health, HHS, have failed the Black community. Other than the $40 million grant that they just the other day gave Morehouse, there has been no grant of programs organized by the federal government into the Black community. And the Morehouse program, which we wish well and we are going to support, is not up and running as of now. So we are still way behind the 8 ball. The National Black Church Initiative is extremely aggressive and progressive on this issue. We have a relationship with 2 pharma companies. Actually today we will be submitting a proposal to one of them, and our job will be to encourage African Americans to participate in clinical trials. And it is critically important to do that.
And those clinical trials would be for testing of a vaccine?
Absolutely. All of these companies that we are engaged into, and I'm not going to call their name because I haven't been given permission to do so, is in the 3rd phase of clinical trials, meaning that the vaccine have shown enough promise and effectiveness. The FDA has approved them to go to that 3rd phase. And now at the end of this month, according to plans, those 2 companies and 3 others are going to be asking individuals to participate in clinical trials. I can't tell you what relationship we're going to have with the 2 companies, but the 5 companies, we have 5 in the country. We have Pfizer, who's in 3rd phase, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and we have another one that I forgot the date. But the bottom line is all of them is in the 3rd phase of the clinical trials. Each 5 of them are asking for 30,000 people to participate. So we're looking at 120,000 to 150,000 people in the country to participate. It is critically important and vital that African Americans step up to the plate. And let me just say this, and thank you for giving me this phone. We hear in our community all the time, the only person can help us is us. You've heard that phrase.
Sure.
That is absolutely true when it comes to clinical trials. The only person that can help us is us. Therefore, we must participate at a robust number so that we will know whether or not any of those potential vaccines actually works on our physiology. So I'm encouraging all African-American churchgoers, when those, once we announce and launch those clinical trials, to sign up, participate, and follow through. And that's the only way, as of date, that we are going to actually defeat COVID-19. I'm also asking them to say their prayers, because we got a God that loves us. And so we're going to call on Almighty God and also participate in those clinical trials.
Reverend Anthony Evans, I appreciate you, and thanks for being on the program tonight. And we'll continue to follow up with the National Black Church Initiative, because you're doing so much work out there. It's kind of hard to keep up with you because you're actually doing some great things in the community. And this is very important, all that you talked about tonight. And we look forward to having you on again soon, and very soon, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. I want to take you now to Germantown, Maryland, where I went to an event that was a food drive, basically to feed people in need because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Let's watch. I'm here in Germantown, Maryland, which is part of Montgomery County, one of the richest counties in the country. Yet there are people in dire need of food, and that's all due to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Many have lost jobs here and elsewhere throughout this country, and sometimes there is a tremendous need just for the basic things that help us get through in life, and that's food. And so we're going to talk tonight about some of those organizations here in this community that have been reaching out to those in need. And we'll talk to some of those recipients of that food and what it means to them in this troubling time that we're living in. The bottom line is this: what we do in our society, what we do from the federal government all the way to local governments, and what we do in our faith communities and with each other, we should always be mindful of the fact that we have to care for the least of these. Journeys Crossing Church is a multicultural congregation in Germantown, Maryland. It is partnering with the Rajasthani Association of Metropolitan Washington area. The South Asian group is deeply aware of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic's impact on the entire world. Some of the members tell me they have seen poverty up close and personal in their native land of India, and they know the devastating effects hunger can have on a community. So now that they've been living here in their new home of America for so many years, it's a surprise to them to see how poverty is sweeping throughout the land because of the disruption of COVID-19. And in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, they're conducting food drives to provide help to people in dire need. They're working in collaboration with Germantown Helps, the church, and the India Development Relief Fund to distribute food to families throughout the area. The U.S. Department of Agriculture provides fresh produce that includes fruits, vegetables, and potatoes. Also, the group receives donations from its generous members to purchase staples of food that will experience a longer shelf life, like powdered milk, beans, and pasta. During these difficult times, for so many families hard hit by the pandemic's disruption on their lives, every little bit helps. And in the abundance of caution, the volunteers mask up, don their gloves, and place food in the trunks or back seats of cars driven by those in need.
This is a cultural organization which is representing some states in India. So normally we basically do some cultural programs in the area, but as you can see, we are trying to help people who have been impacted by COVID for this food drive. I think we just wanted to help as much as we can. I mean, we are fortunate that we were able to get some people to donate for the event. And really, as you can see from the crowd here, there definitely seems to be a big need for doing this work. So we are hoping, based on today's experience, by the way, we are doing it for the very first time, our organization. So we hope that this will be an event we can repeat in a couple of weeks too. So our aim is just to, help the community who are struggling to meet ends meet as far as groceries is concerned.
The need is definitely way higher, and the problem that I see it is that we're going to see this level of need for a long time. People who haven't been working for a long time have gone through their savings. If they had any, they may be in debt. They're going to owe a lot of things, and I kind of think, just like in 2008 and 2009, that it's going to take a couple years, really, if not more, but a couple years to come back from that kind of event.
Yes, we are so grateful that people can, have a good heart to come out and help people who are in need. At this time of the year, this year has been terrible on families. People have died from this, sickness, and families have been torn apart. And for people to come around and gather and be kind to people is something nice. So we want to thank them, and God bless them. Matter of fact, I'm so grateful. I have a job, but still everybody is struggling. My daughter doesn't have a job, the husband doesn't have a job, and we have a grandchild. That's why I just wanted to come this morning and get a little bit to help us in the house.
Right, very good.
We are so
tough
grateful.
to make ends meet.
Yes, we are so grateful to God that we are still alive. A lot of people didn't make it through this sickness. So we're just grateful to God, and we are grateful to the people who have the kind heart to come out this morning and help us.
God bless you, ma'am.
God bless.
I just wanted to ask you about this effort to help people in this tough time that we're going through with COVID-19, the pandemic, and the disruption to our economy. How has it affected you? And coming to an event like this to get food, how necessary is it?
It's real hard. We're struggling real hard to keep food in the house right now. And if it wasn't for these people, we wouldn't have anything.
Wow. So will this sustain you for a week, 2 weeks?
I would say a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really depends on the family size.
Oh my goodness. And how large is your family?
Right now it's just 3 of us.
Okay.
A daughter, but she's disabled.
Oh, okay. And so you talked about how hard it's been, and we don't know when this is going to end. And the fact that so many Americans have been unemployed every week, is that what's happening to you?
Yes, a lot. My husband's hours have been cut big time. And
Wow.
He's working like part-time hours right now. And it's only his income that's coming in our home. So we're struggling a whole lot. Our bills are all backed up. It's real hard.
If you had one thing to say to our federal government, from the top down, from the president all the way down to members of Congress, what would it be?
If they would start looking at the people that are really struggling here and give us more options to do things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us who's willing to work for whatever we can get. If they would just give us the opportunity to do that, to support our families.
We have the opportunity here to get free food. I'm so proud to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the help.
Well, the help is important, isn't it?
Yeah, so important.
Yeah. Now, how big is your family?
I have 6 in my family, 6 members.
And how tough has it been being stuck in this COVID-19 pandemic, and the economy is really messed up for you?
A little bit, because I still had some money coming. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so lucky to to be here.
Well, sir, thank you. We will get through this. I want to thank everyone who actually came out to do that food drive and to help people get the food they need. They were able to help 250 families. And certainly, we all are in this together. Hunger knows no color. It doesn't care about your color or your ethnic background. But what's important is that people care enough to lend a helping hand. Back with more of the show after this. Welcome back. Now it's time to talk about strengthening the family, because we do have to make our family stronger and better in this heightened time of COVID-19 and so many things going on. So George and Tondra Gregory join me now. They're with Journey for Life. They're the creators of it, and they're also NFL chaplains to the Los Angeles Chargers. Prior to that, they were out on the East Coast over here in the New York area, where they served as chaplains to the New York Giants. So guys, first of all, thanks for being back on Monday. And as we strengthen the family, we're talking about unity today and how we can keep our families united. Talk to me about that and how important that is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, unity and agreement. There's power in unity and agreement. Yep. In Amos 3:3, it just talks about how can two walk together unless they are agreed. And so we like to say marriage is a team sport. Either you're going to win together or you're going to lose together. So finding that way to be on the same page and unify and walk in that agreement is very key. It protects your relationship against, resentment and bitterness, because if you don't agree, then there's an opportunity to blame one or the other for where we are or the decisions that we've made. I remember when George and I were making that decision about moving to New York City. I did not want to go. He wanted to go. So we were kind of gridlocked on whether we should go or not. But the thing is, we had to find a place where we could totally agree, in our hearts agree, because if we got there and things didn't work out, we would risk the situation where I would want to blame him and make it his fault. So we basically said, either we're going to go together, we're going to either be successful together, but if we fail and have to come back home, then we're doing it together.
Yeah, so agreement is, when we talk about Journey for Life, which is our organization's name, if you're going to be married on your journey and be successful, there has to be this moment where number one is to make your relationship the priority. That's the number one way that you're going to walk in agreement with what we call alignment. Making your relationship a priority. There's careers that try to come in the middle of your relationship. There's even our kids sometimes come in the middle of our relationship. And as married people or people in relationships, we have to prioritize that which is most important. And relationships are the essential part of what we do together.
Can we get to a point, George, of agreeing to disagree and still live in harmony?
Yeah, I think that's the crossroads of what it means to be in a relationship, right? To be in a relationship means that I can't always be right? And we've got this thing in America where we're always fighting for our freedoms, right? And in relationship, I think we have to fight for the unity, which is sometimes sacrificing for the sake of the other. You see, in marriage, I can imagine many African-American fathers feeling as somewhat like, wow, whatever I do, it seems like it's criticized, right? Whether I'm with my family or if I'm out in the streets and I'm doing things to protest or whatnot. And yet to understand each other at the end of the day is that Tondra and I have been married for 25 years this year, by the way. And it didn't come without us having some disagreements, but what it did come with us having to fight for the unity, right? And I can't have it my way. She can't have it 100% her way. So we got to sort of meet each other in the middle. And I think that's what it really comes down to, the sacrifice of what am I giving up for the sake of Tondra, and what is she giving up for the sake of George?
That's good, guys. Thank you. What do we give up for each other? Love is sometimes and oftentimes very sacrificial, and it's really putting it all on the line to save your relationship, your marriage, your family, and even to that point, saving your community and the nation. A lot of people don't get the connection, but certainly you do, and thanks for expressing it today. George and Tondra Gregory, we'll be back with them on Wednesday as we continue to talk about strengthening the family, because it is so important. We've got to strengthen the family so that we have better communities, a better state, a better nation. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. So it gives me great, in fact, it is a great honor and pleasure to introduce to you Jackie Gales Webb. She is a radio, I call her a radio pioneer. She's done great work here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. She's at WHUR, which is the powerhouse of, in my opinion, of Black radio nationwide. WHUR, when it launched, was an experiment, and it just flourished. And one of the great people who helped it flourish is now in heaven. We would definitely believe that, because he brought good gospel music every Sunday morning for 41 years, and that was Patrick Ellis. And so in tribute and in memoriam to Patrick Ellis, who actually caused so many stations throughout this country, Jackie, to follow suit and have a Sunday morning gospel show, they all followed the leader. And that was Patrick Ellis of WHUR Radio. Tell me, first of all, it's good to have you on, and tell me about your memories of this pioneer and this legendary gospel radio announcer.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for having me on this program and having the opportunity to pay tribute to Patrick Ellis in such a great way. I actually was brought on to WHUR to extend the success of Patrick Ellis's program. He was in the morning, and they extended it to the afternoon to continue the wonderful work that he was doing with the community and the ratings that he was bringing in. He was #1 in his time slot for most of those 40 years, if not all of them. And he really engaged with the community. He had people telling of birthdays, of anniversaries, of celebrations. He gave church news, information to the community about health issues, all kinds of things to really benefit the DMV. And his audience was multi-generational. There are grandparents, actually great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, children, and their children. It just goes on and on. The people that he has impacted and the power of what he did on the radio for 41 years was just tremendous.
You know, you're right. And his love for people went beyond radio, because he also helped people in terms of conducting food drives. And tell me about that, because that really became, in part and parcel of who Patrick Ellis was. And he helped WHUR become that message to the community of hope, of love, of freedom, and peace.
Patrick was producer at WHUR, and he did many initiatives that the station took on to help the community, such as the Border Baby Radiothon that raised money to take care of babies left in hospitals during the crack cocaine epidemic. Food to Feed, every Thanksgiving, WHUR raised money to help feed the needy during the Thanksgiving holidays, and Patrick was at the head of that. He also helped to arrange the Helping Hands Radiothon that raised money for, and still is raising money for, Howard University students who want to conduct community service across the country during their spring breaks. And so much more. Give Me Shelter Radiothon, helping people with the housing crisis. He was always at the forefront of arranging these big initiatives, but he stayed pretty much in the background and felt very comfortable doing so.
And what would be your message to students all across this this planet in terms of what they're seeking, especially Black students who are trying to become their best, and yet they're coming up against a COVID-19 pandemic and racial tension, and what's your message to them?
Don't let anything stop you. Continue to nurture your talent. This is a remarkable time for people to really take off with their strengths. If you are good at writing, continue to write. If you are good at music, continue to do your music. If you are very good on the internet doing blogs, do that, but just don't stop. Keep going. The doors are wide open right now. We don't know what the future is going to bring as far as this media institution that we have, but things change very quickly, as you can see. Just be prepared and strengthen yourself. Soar with your strengths. That's one of the things that my mentor, Maureen Bunyan, who was a news anchor here in Washington, D.C., told me. Soar with your strengths. Build on your strengths. And when opportunities open, you're ready.
You know, that's a great thought. Soar with your strength. Kind of reminds you of Isaiah, and soar like an eagle.
That's right. Exactly
right. Jackie, appreciate you so much for coming on the show, and great tribute to what a great man, to a remarkable man, Patrick Ellis, who of course has his wings and probably broadcasting very well in heaven right now, where the gospel continues 24/7.
That's right. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. God bless you. Welcome back to the program. A footnote here. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two of the nation's founding fathers, died within hours of each other on the same day, July 4th. And the interesting thing is that C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, two of the nation's founding fathers of the civil rights struggle, also died within hours of each other. We remember them well, and their legacy lives on. John Lewis stated this: "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. May you be troubled by their lives and go out and make some good noise. Be righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading love, freedom, and peace." Good night.
And sisters, get on board the love train. Everyone's invited.